Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Thursday night, 8 p.m. Gaming Enforcement Agency and Unky Dunky. Welcome back to the fold, sir.
Thank you, sir. It's been quite a few weeks since Unky Dunky's sat in the second seat here. And even though Bully tried to boot me out tonight, I'm back where I belong. So now looking forward to a good show. There's been a lot of games we've been playing, not half of which are even going to be talked about tonight because it's been so long between drinks.
Beautiful work, mate. Thank you very much. And of course, in the third slot this evening, Bully, how are you, mate?
I am doing very well. A little disjointed now that I'm back down the bottom. I'm not quite sure I like it down here.
Very good. Now, everyone at home, let me tell you this. The show goes as follows. First segment, games, interrogation, and deliberation. Tonight, 7 games that we've been playing this week. You'll get the game footage and we'll discuss our thoughts. And if you'd like, bang a comment or two in the chat as we go. Feel free. And then, of course, it's the news segment, Unky Dunky. How many news stories have we rounded up this evening?
Mate, just like the games we've been playing, we have 7 news stories this evening.
You know what that means, listeners? We're in for a good one. And then, of course, we go over to everyone's favourite segment. It's the Standoff. Unky Dunky, what does it take to be in the running this evening?
Well, now that I'm back, we've got a big list again because we all know Unky Dunky, he runs the Standoff. This week, we have it with the new Twisted Metal show out now, and it not sucking, according to 2 of us on the panel. We ask, what game has the best vehicle combat? And spoiler alert, there is no Destruction All-Stars on this list.
Oh, why not?
I guess might have come last anyway.
Fair enough. And then the final segment, the fourth, is audience integration. Bully, if you wouldn't mind, please, sir, would you patrol their YouTube chat all evening? Flick up any comments you feel appropriate throughout the show, and then we can round them up at the end if you like.
In there already.
Beautiful work, my friend. If you're in the chat already, say hi to Bully for me. So, without further ado, let's kick off games, interrogation, and deliberation. First up this evening, we have Remnant 2. Now, Unky, there's been discussions with Ace and Bully about this game, and I don't know which way to fold. So, mate, you either need to sell me on the game or tell me to keep my games on the shelf and not trade them in for Remnant 2. Mate, what can you tell me?
Wait, do you like third-person shooters?
I love third-person shooters. You know that.
Do you like Demon Souls?
I love Demon Souls. You know that as well, mate.
Do you like Returnal?
Oh, I've got a platinum in it. Does that count?
That does count. Well,
then Remnant is none of the above.
Oh, my God, Bully. No, he's absolutely wrong. He's just bad at the game, everyone. I have to tell you, I liked the first game. I never finished it. I got to a point where I think I was just stuck. It got too hard or whatever. The grind wasn't there for me. Playing this one, I was stupid enough. Well, not stupid enough, but I did pay the extra money to get the deluxe edition, which gave me 3 days early access as well. And I like feeling like I'm getting a head start when it comes to these sorts of Souls-like games. I know Bully last week said that he didn't sort of find the Souls-like amongst this, and I can see why he wouldn't think it was very Souls-like. It is very third-person shooter heavy, but I think it does some of the best third-person shooting out there. It's very competent in what it's doing as a shooter.
Tight mechanics.
Very tight mechanics, very enjoyable shooting mechanics as well. Really good feedback on the guns and stuff and everything. But I'm pretty sure.
Or Xbox?
I'm playing on PS5 for
How's
this.
The DualSense for the reloads and such?
DualSense is really nice. It doesn't overcompensate. It's got really nice feedback through the controller. I do have the fancy what's it called? The
Edge.
The Edge. I've got the Edge now. So, and it's a slightly bigger controller than the PS5 DualSense, which I find really comfortable. It's probably now my favorite gaming controller, even more so than the Elite Series controller for the Xbox.
Nice.
So really enjoying playing games on that now, especially with my expanded hard drive now, the PS5. I've got plenty of room there with the extra 2 terabytes in there. But no, in playing this game, I have fallen in love with it. It's all I've really been playing. I have rolled credits as of a couple of nights ago, so I've beaten the final boss.
Count?
Currently sitting at about 68.
Nice.
But that's mainly so the way the game works. You've got your main campaign, and this is where it could differ for different people. The way the game starts out, I'm not sure where Bully started in the game, but it's got some kind of procedural generation where the levels, the way you play through the game, it could load completely differently to where someone else's game starts. Because you've got you got about 5 worlds, I think there is, and 3 you can I'll tell you about what you can do with those 3 in a minute, but it could start you anywhere within those maps, and there could be a different sort of way those maps are put together with the procedural generation that you're going to have a completely different or vastly different experience than someone else starting that game. So I might start in one area of one level. Someone else might start, in a swamp area. Like one of my mates at work, he started in the swamp area of a level that is one of my favorite levels, if not my favorite level to replay, because it's the most Bloodborne-ish sort of Dark Souls level. But he started in the sewer level of that version of that game, which I had to give you an idea, when I started this level, I started in a castle area and then went through a door which transported me through to the Resident Evil type area, and then through that area I went through a door which then got me into the dungeon area which he started in. And where he started, one of the end boss for that sort of sewer area is so hard and so tough. And I only fought that boss probably a couple of days ago, and he was probably maybe the 25th boss I've fought in the whole game, and he's one of the toughest. So I can see how people's differing experiences could sort of tarnish the way they think about the game and the way the game plays, depending on where you start.
Enemy scaling to compensate for that, or
not only. I mean, the enemies I think are all the same. You do have difficulty settings, which is different to Dark Souls. So there is sort of a nice barrier to entry where you can just pick the sort of easiest sort of difficulty, and then once you play more, you can sort of unlock but you play the harder difficulties. I started my first run, did my first campaign run through on the easiest difficulty. Even then, not a cakewalk, but you're not. All the stuff you're unlocking on that easy difficulty is then playable through the hard difficulty and vice versa. So it doesn't really matter where you play your difficulty, because you're still unlocking the same stuff, but you're not sort of, if you play the hardest difficulty Nightmare and unlock a ring in that or an item, that's the same item you're unlocking in easy anyway. So it's good that they reward you for that, and they don't punish you for, playing on the easy difficulties. Yes, there's some stuff you can unlock in the hard difficulties that you won't unlock in the easy, but majority, it's mostly the same stuff. So for me, I've just had such a great experience through that campaign. And once you finish a full set of a level, then you can go in what's called adventure mode. So it unlocks that level. You can play that in adventure mode. It's got two separate campaigns. So you can go into your main campaign or adventure mode campaign. Once you re-roll that level, you can then play that level as many times as you like, re-roll whatever difficulty you like, re-roll whatever starting area you like, and then play that level all the way through again, get all different bosses, different story beats, and your character upgrades that you get throughout that adventure mode still then carry over back to your main character for the main campaign. So there's a nice grind there without having to go back and play the same stuff that you've already played. You can play the same thing, but it's all sort of mixed back in different sort of puzzle pieces. So really creating that fresh replayability, and with the gameplay that's just smooth as butter when it comes to its third-person shooting, which is why I sort of relate it back to Returnal and just the movement across the battlefield. And yes, it's going to change depending on sort of what character you've.
Oh, I think we've had a internet hiccup from Monkey's side.
Looks good. Hopefully, you can get back in. So while we wait for Monkey's,
I'm back.
He's
all good.
Yep.
All good. Okay, so yeah. There's 11 archetypes you can pick from the start of the game. So 11? I did my research. Yeah, there's quite a few. So you've got Gunslinger, Handler, Challenger, Medic, Hunter, Summoner, Alchemist, Explorer, Engineer, Invader, and Archon. Some of those you'll have to unlock doing special things within the game, but I think there's about maybe 8 you can pick from the start. I went with the Handler, which starts off with a little poochie, so you get a little German Shepherd running around with you, which can build some of the aggro off you. So it is one of the better classes to pick as a solo player. If you're not going to play this co-op, yes, you can play up to 3 players co-op as well. I've done the whole thing solo. But he takes some of the aggro off you. You can send him out to attack people. He can actually heal you when you drop down. So it's kind of like an extra life that he gives you, which is great because you will die a fair bit in this game. Come back to the Souls-like. But the punishment for death is not like Souls. You don't have to go back and get your souls. Anything you've picked up, all your experience you've earned, all that stuff doesn't die with you on the battlefield. It goes with you back to your thing. So it doesn't feel unfair like a Souls game.
Are there bonfires?
Yeah, sort of. There's checkpoint sections with these big giant red crystals you'll see in all the media stuff for it, but they're sort of like, they can take you back to Ward 13, which is sort of main base where you've got all your different, people to buy stuff off or upgrade your weapons, upgrade your mods, do all that stuff. But then you can jump straight back to the bonfire you're up to, and then keep going where you're up to. So there's not many littered throughout the game, but they're sort of scattered really perfectly throughout the level. Like you never feel like you're too far away from one, and it gives you enough. And if you die and you go back to it, you never feel like you're being punished too harshly either. Beautiful game. It's running on Unreal Engine 5. I think this and Fortnite are about the only games at the moment that are doing that. And for a procedurally generated game, this is one of the best looking games I've seen this year. One of the best running games, considering we've got all these big games coming out that can't hit that 60 frames per second. This is smooth as butter on PS5. I've had no issues at all with its graphics, with its performance. This is running on the 60 frame per second mode, and I'm getting very, very stellar performance across the board. So
tell us about the load screens.
Logic are pretty quick. They're not as quick as some of the other games we've got going on, but you're never in there too long at all, which I find great as part of the PS5. It's one of the benefits of these faster consoles with their SSDs, being able to load these games fast, and you're never out of the action for too long in this. And for me, like, this is easily one of my games of the year at the moment. I didn't expect to like it this much and put this much time into it, but for me, the grind really hit, and the sort of that gameplay loop and unlocking abilities, and the fact that when you beat a boss, you get an item, you take it to the lady, and that then you can either turn into a weapon or a mod. So you get these, big boss weapons that become some of the best weapons in the game, and they've got mods. So one at the moment that I rock with, which took me ages to beat this boss, but when I finally did, I unlocked the ability to get this gun, and it's now become my number one gun in the game, and I've fully upgraded that to level 15 using resources that you get throughout the game as well. Like, you got your scrap you've got to get, you got different resources you get from defeating different enemies and finding hidden chests throughout the world as well. So it's real. It's made me this explorer throughout this world that I'm just fallen in love with this game, and I cannot wait. I know they've already announced 3 DLCs for this and extra levels, and I think they supported the first one pretty well as well. So the fact that I've already gone through and maybe beaten 30 odd bosses in this game and re-roll campaigns over and over again to have that same gameplay experience, and I say same gameplay experience, but being different to what I'm actually getting from the very first time, I just can't see myself stopping playing this anytime soon.
How's the transmorg system?
There is no transmog system. That's one of the things I think they probably will add, and will probably have to add at one point. I've managed to find one of the best armor pieces in the game, so I haven't really sort of wavered from that piece of armor, and it's one big sort of armor suit essentially. So I don't really look like how I want to look when I'm playing this game, but I'm not going to take it off because it's giving me such good buffs against all the different elemental damage and sort of physical damage that I'm getting. So, and I found like a little one of my things that I have activated. I'm trying to think what they're called. Artifacts. You attach these different artifacts that you find, and mine lowers my weight that I've got, and then it ups all my health and stuff as well. So I'm wearing this really heavy armor, but because I'm dropping my weight down 15, I'm now in the medium, so I don't heavy roll. I can still medium roll with all this armor protection. So, and then I've attached like extra ability for my electricity stuff, and I've got a gun that fires electricity. So I've modded out my character perfectly, and I can melt most enemies, straight away now. I've jumped into the hardest difficulty nightmare mode and done quite a bit of grinding on nightmare mode to get some resources and stuff. And I've found myself not really at the stopgap. Yes, it's much harder, but the fact that I've done all the work in the smaller modes and the lesser difficulty modes, it's sort of really had me in steadfast for playing those harder difficulties, and I really want to see what this is like co-op. So I'm hoping maybe Bully wants to jump in and get some co-op if he is stuck on a boss or he's not finding the fun in the level he's in. I'm hoping I can sort of carry him through that so he can find the love in the game as well.
Well, I'll tell you what, mate, you've sold me on it. You'll have me as a co-op option shortly, but we need a quick active reload. My computer is having some sort of hernia. When I can find the reload option. Sorry, everyone, this shouldn't take long at all. I'm just going to go and slap a few people around who might be using the internet here. Stand by. Hopefully this is fixed and we are back. My apologies, everyone. That computer doesn't like me too much this evening. Unky Dunky, I apologize, mate. I terribly interrupted you, so please continue.
No, that's okay. And just don't let the on-screen performance of this game throw you off. It looked like it was a bit glitchy there, but no, it definitely runs smooth. But in speaking about those archetypes as well, you can unlock a second archetype. So once you get through the game a little bit, part of the story, you can unlock a second archetype. So you can run. I'm running now a medic and the handler thing, so you get both their abilities. You can run at any given time as well. So there's just a lot of mechanics going on in this game that a lot of games don't really do. And I think it should be applauded for a AA game looking as good as it does, playing as good as it does, being as addictive as it is. I think majority of this game is reviewed really, really well as well. And I mean, I know the first one was good, but this is them firing all cylinders, and I can't wait to see what they do with the third one.
Well, good, better, best, you would think. Is there any option when you're running it solo to have an AI buddy, like one of the other classes with you?
No, there's not, which is why I suggest really using that handler subclass. It is, I think, the best thing for a solo because they will draw aggro. He will attack enemies, and then as you level up that archetype as well, you'll give your dog different abilities. So by the time you unlock his third ability, you can set him at 20% extra attack as well. So he'll take off more chunks of health of enemies, or you can have him sort of heal you or follow. If you're playing co-op, he'll follow your team members around and heal them for 20% of their health if they start losing their health. So he's really handy to have as a main archetype. So yeah, without that, you've got no bots that are running around. I don't think you'd want them anyway. I think the fun in this game I've found is sort of running this solo, and once you sort of start unlocking some of those new weapons that, yeah, for me, the game is much easier now because I have some of the weapons I have, and some of the stuff I've had to get those weapons hasn't been the easiest. But once you do it, the sense of satisfaction you get from having these guns and then upgrading them and then trying out different loadouts and trying out different mods, and like my first gun I think I started rocking with, which was a boss melter, was running with the a LMG, which I then modded to have fire bullets, but then I increased my mod damage by attaching a ring that gives me more mod damage. Then so with the bosses, I would just run in there and just unload 150 bullets with activate my mod, and then they would end up with fire on them, and then that would just drag their health down and down and down. So it was a good tactic I'd have in the start of every boss fight. I would just go in there, activate my mod, shoot them, and then sort of run around and get off some hits, wait for my mod power to regenerate, and do that. And then my gameplay's completely changed since that with all the new weapons I've got. So it's just, there's the amount of different options you've got with different guns, submachine guns, bow and arrow. Like there's that many options at your disposal, and you're just going to pick and choose a different way to play no matter what kind of play you are. You can even play it as a melee build if you want to. You can without.
Is that every class or only one class?
No, every class has got a melee, so you unlock different melee weapons. I think it's up to 30 melee weapons. I think there's over 30 guns you can get, long guns, 30 different pistols you can get as well. So without holding down the left trigger to aim, you just use your melee. So each different weapon you've got has a different ability. So and then they can be upgraded as well with their abilities. So the amount of different options you've got at your disposal for combat is just unreal in this game. I just found so much fun in it.
So the hunter class is the one that's taken my eye because they can go invisible and then they're good with long range weapons. That's what I would have thought would have been where I wanted to head for my first playthrough. Is that not advisable then?
No, hunter's hard. Like you do get a lot of enemies on screen at once. I think the hunter's good as a support class because you can sit back and pop things off as you've got your sort of close quarters combat doing the stuff up ahead. So my recommendation is definitely the handler. He starts with an assault rifle, which you can fire burst shots if you want to from long distance, and he's really good up close as well. And if you follow sort of one of these videos, it'll show you how to get a submachine gun early on as well, which is a really good pistol to use. Those will get you in pretty far into the game until you sort of feel like you have to start changing things up. But I recommend anything that's a slow fire gun, only really use that if you're going to go co-op. But and even the gunslinger was a pre-order bonus that you get from the start if you wanted to use him. I didn't use that, and then you've got to wait quite a bit into the game before you unlock him as a second tier one as well. But he kind of just pulls out his revolver. It's really cool, like fires them off really quickly, 6-shooter to do extra damage to enemies and stuff. But for me, it was more about my being able to heal and just having that extra companion there with me to revive me if I go down, especially in boss fights. So I think that is the way to go if you're a solo player.
Fair call, man. I'm loving everything I'm hearing. I'm definitely going to pick this one up this week. So look out. Bully, any points from you this week on the old Remnant 2?
Look, to be honest, I'm probably not as hot on it, but hearing Unky explain the sort of starting procedure and what world you dumped in and that sort of thing, for me, that really has a massive impact on on me a game initially grabbing me. So I got thrown into, I think it's been flashed up on screen there a couple of times while you're talking, is the, I'm not sure if you call it the swamp, but it's certainly the really red background with what looks like an old sort of temple that you, and some, structures, like you can see it on screen there. But it didn't, aesthetically, it didn't really grab me. And that's probably, as I said, probably one of the biggest things for me. If that doesn't grab me to start with, I find it very hard to push through and into a game. And having that like bright red background that you see through a lot of it with the plants and all that sort of stuff, it really, I didn't like the look of it at all. So it might be worth jumping back in, as you said, Unky, ploughing through that section and then finding myself into another world, or maybe even starting, hopefully we'll dump you in a different area. Because some of those areas that I have seen that, like I think you mentioned it before, the more gothic sort of area is much more appealing to me for this type of game. So, but I agree with what you said. The gameplay is quite fun. I went with the same class with the dog as well because, I sort of look at it as it's in essence ideally played in a co-op crew. I guess would probably, although you can play it one player, as you've said, you've done most of it with that. But I sort of look at it back to the old World of Warcraft with the hunter class. That if you're going to do a lot of things yourself, you've got your pet that you can use to either attack or do different things. So that's sort of why I went with that one. And that's probably what I recommend as well, Troy. It does make it a bit easier. And as you said, Unky, you can be revived. So look, as I said, probably not as hot on it. I put maybe 5 or 6 hours into it and then just sort of put it away. But I'm happy to jump into it tomorrow, Unky, and have a look at the co-op and the multiplayer and maybe have a look at some of the different worlds that we might be able to get in, and that might reignite my interest into it. But
what time are we doing this? When do I have to get to the shops and back by?
Pretty early.
So we'll see how it goes after that playthrough. I might change my mind. Although I know we were discussing before the show about some upcoming releases that we're playing, and I've determined to put some of those on hold while I plough through the backlog. So there's probably, unless this really grabs me tomorrow, there's still probably quite a few on the backlog that I really want to get into before we start hitting into that September, October mad rush that's coming.
Fair enough. Very good. The only other thing I was going to ask was, is it the same font that they're using on screen as, and I'm blanking on the goddamn name of it, not Outer Worlds, the EA shooter where you spoiler alert, but you drop into the future and then other people have been in the future. So you land on an evolved human world. It came out start of last year or the year before.
Outriders.
Outriders. Thank you very much. Is it the same font? Look at the numbers coming off the back. I'm like, that's the Outriders font on the
it could be similar. And people would draw comparisons to that, but then when you start playing, it's nothing like it. This is I fell off Outriders, was more of a cover-based shooter and stuff like that. This is, definitely got more sort of niche with the Souls-like third-person shooting, which is, I much prefer this style of game. But you're right, the numbers look very similar.
Right then, we're on to game number 2, and Bully, tell us about Broforce.
Broforce. So, it came out a couple of years ago, and it was, I think maybe 2 or 3 years ago, it did drop onto PlayStation Plus, and I do remember playing it for a little bit on that, but not really getting into it. And then it's dropped just in the last week or so onto Game Pass. And while I was having a bit of lull and maybe half an hour to spare with not wanting to jump into anything else, I thought I'll give it a crack and have a look. And it's a fantastic game, I have to say. It's as you can see on screen there, it's like the 8-bit side-scrolling shooter. It can get very difficult in places because you've got a lot of explosion. Hey,
watching level 1. I found the trouble in it.
Well, there you go. So you can see you've got gas cylinders and all these different things that start exploding on the screen, and then the further you get into it, you come across tanks and stuff that you got to battle, and they start dropping airstrikes on you and all this sort of stuff. So it does get pretty hectic. But the main part of the game, and this is why I find it quite humorous as a fan of 1980s, early 90s action movies. That's peak cinema as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, you and I both, man. I absolutely loved it.
The old action things. But what they do is they sort of rehash some of those classic characters. So I've got up a list here. So here's some of the ones you start off with, but they have the Broforce name thrown in there. So the first character you're going to start with is Rambro. You get B.A. Bro Rackus from the A team. You've got Bro Hard. You've got Bro Dread. I think we just saw flash off on screen. You've got the Brominator, Brobo Cop, Indiana Brones, and the list goes on and on and on. And this is...
You may have said it, but what was the Chuck Norris one?
The Chuck... I'll have to find it again. The version that's dropped onto the Game Pass is basically the complete version. So it's got a number of extra bros that you can unlock as you're sort of going through it. So some of the other ones, you've got Z-Bro, which is Xena. You've got Demolition Bro from Demolition Man. So it goes on and on. It's quite funny. It is quite funny. And each of the characters you've got essentially act as a life within each level. So you can see in the cages on the screen there. So if you go through and unlock them, you change to the character that you've just rescued, and they've got different abilities. So they'll have different guns or different special attacks and that sort of stuff you can use. And in essence, as I said, they effectively act as lives as you're playing through it. So if one of your characters dies, I think the one we just saw on screen there was, the Bro McLean from Bro Hard. He dies, and then you default back to Brambo. Or Rambo. Now I'm confusing myself. Fantastic little game. If you've got Game Pass, I'd thoroughly recommend jumping into it. I know a lot of people really get into that 16-bit, 8-bit sort of modern retro style. Quite often that actually puts me off some games, but this for some reason just clicks. I love the visuals. I love the fact that you can just basically explode your way through most of the screen, and it just, as I said, becomes quite hectic. And it's just a fun little game that you can jump in, spend 5 or 10 minutes, and like I think each level you can get through it in 2 or 3 minutes. So
can you?
To spend, well, if you do it properly, I suppose. I don't know. So if you spend half an hour, you could probably get through 7 or 8 levels, reasonably quickly. But
or just the first level if you try.
Just the first level, yeah. As long as you don't keep falling into that. I think I'm watching this as I'm talking, and I've seen you drop into that same that same thing and kill yourself. I reckon half a dozen times. I don't know if I'm watching it on replay or you just keep doing the same thing every time.
What I was doing, because it was my first time in the game, I was counting how many squares I could jump. So I had to keep dying from different points to get the count right. So I'd be right moving forward.
Yeah, blame it on that. But yeah, I reckon fun little game. I reckon it's, if you got Game Pass, it's well worth a look at. I haven't looked at the price of what it is now on PlayStation, but in any event, I think there's a bit of value for money in it. Yeah, and it is as well multiplayer, so you can have up to 4 players or 4 bros, I should say, on screen at the one time.
Local only or online?
I believe it's online as well, but you can do for local.
I love this game. Sorry, mate, kick on.
Oh no, I agree. I love it. It's great little arcade throwback, and a heap of fun and quite humorous. As you know, even you've got the names and all the rest of it, but some of the enemies they come up with and the levels that you play through, I reckon there's a bit of humour in there as well. So from my point of view, well worth a look at. Yeah,
and the only other thing I'd add, man, is the hilarious accidental deaths you see, not just for yourself, but like you can have trucks, dropping on people. You can have, one guy will get lit on fire and then run off into the pack and cause chaos. Like there's many.
Sorry to interrupt, just while it's on the screen there. I can see one, you're pumping the bullets into the punters coming out the door. To get rid of that door, you actually need to destroy the platform underneath it.
Thank you for the tip. I actually stood there for a bit. I'm like, there might be an achievement for slaying, 50 guys in sub 7 seconds or something. I was doing an achievement poke. But
there you go. So no, if you destroy the platform beneath the door, then they just start falling to their death, and then the door will close.
Very good. I do need to know that. Men in Black dude was awesome, and the what's his name with the big katana? Blade?
No, it's Brode.
Brode.
It's Brode. Hang on, I'll get you the
Chuck Norris.
Oh no, I'll keep looking for Chuck Norris, but you've got. I forgot Alan Ritbro from Alien. You do. This is it's hilarious. I love it. You've got no, it's the Men in Black is Bro in Black.
Yeah,
of course
Bravo,
it is.
The Bro in Black. Bro in Black.
But just to second your calls, man, I never even heard of this game. Didn't know it was in Game Pass. You threw it in the list for tonight's show, so I did, put it in to capture this footage, and I fell in love with this game instantly. If you've got Game Pass, you don't have any excuse. Play this game. Check it out. It is phenomenal. 2 massive thumbs up from me. I absolutely love it. Unky, have we sold you?
Well, yeah, I played this back in the day, well before. It was probably it's a few years back now when it first came out.
2015, I think I saw earlier today.
Yeah, so I was probably when I played it. I reckon it was back in the day. But no, I saw Bully had this on the list, so I jumped on the Xbox today. Stopped playing everything else. I was playing just for a brief moment. I just loaded up with the cloud because you got cloud gaming with Xbox Game Pass, so I didn't bother installing it. Not that it would be a big install, I imagine. But
2 meg.
yeah, probably could have just downloaded it. Just jumped, but it ran flawlessly on the cloud as well, and I was the same. It was what I remembered back in the day, just obviously with more characters and stuff as well. I enjoy this art style, and I enjoy, their riff on classic action heroes and stuff. It just definitely has that flavor of an old school 80s movie, and it's just, it's a lot of fun.
Oh, and for any old man hands out there, the arcade stick works beautifully with it. Go, Billy.
No, I was just going to say I found old Chuck Norris, so it's Brodell Walker, Texas Ranger.
Nice.
Perfect. I love it. All right, guys, let's move on, shall we, to game 3 this evening. Now, it's Diablo 4. I'm at level 46, just to bring everyone up to speed, but I have no additional thoughts. Unky, this one's really in here for you, man. Tell us things about your adventures in Diablo 4, if you please.
Well, I haven't played it for a little bit, only because we've had a lot of games come out since it came out. I think I was playing this and another game on our list, which I think is Game 7. Just back to front, I was playing Diablo, and then I'll say what it is, Street Fighter 6. Going between those two games for quite a while, and then with all this other stuff, Final Fantasy coming out, it kind of fell off Diablo a bit. But I think I'm sitting about level 40, so you're probably ahead of me now. I know we had a bit of co-op stuff, which I actually really enjoyed. That was probably the last time I actually played it, was when we played co-op a couple of weeks ago, maybe.
Yeah.
And that sort of, actually raised my enjoyment of the game as well. I think going in there with a partner and, having these bosses chase you around in circles and, seemingly no chance to beat them. But we got there in the end. But no, just a thoroughly enjoyable game. I do enjoy the grind of Diablo. It doesn't quite have its hooks in me as something like Remnant has managed to get its hooks in me, and I really was hoping Diablo would be that, and it probably will be at some stage when 1,000 other games aren't coming out. But August is definitely that month. There's not much out this month before we hit September, but I keep finding ways to spend money, which we'll talk about next.
That's very good. Speaking of next, here we go. Game 4, Unky Dunky. What have you got for us?
So a game I didn't actually expect or didn't even know it was coming to next-gen consoles until probably a day before or 2 days before it came out. So this is Oceanhorn 2, initially an Apple Arcade game. Some people have called it Zelda Light. I really enjoyed the first Oceanhorn when that came out. I think my first playthrough of Oceanhorn 1 was on the mobile phone. Then that came to consoles as well, and that was more sort of top-down isometric Zelda-like style game with dungeons and everything. This takes it, to the third-person action game like Zelda did. And it does it really well. Initially, when you first start the game, you could be seen as being quite simple, but where it's opened up to now, I'm finding myself getting stuck and having to actually really think about puzzles. I know Bully's main gripe with the most recent Zelda games has been classic dungeons, and this game does have classic like Zelda dungeons where you're thrown into the dungeon, then you got to solve the puzzles, and then eventually all the stuff you're solving throughout that dungeon then comes back to the main core part of that dungeon, and then you solve it, and then the story moves on. But you've got this big open world stuff as well. Yes, there's not as much to do in it, so something like a Zelda, so you can see it obviously where its beginnings lay as a mobile game, but this game is punching well above its weight. The combat is fun. It's simple, but it's fun. Like, you've got this little gun caster thing, which is like your ranged combat. But as you go through the game, you unlock different abilities with it. You can see, like, it's got a zip caster. You've got electricity bullets, you've got ice bullets, you've got fire bullets, then you've got your regular gun bullets as well. And if you can sneak up on enemies, you can get like critical hit sneak attacks. If you shoot them in the head, you can hit certain enemies in certain spots to get like a critical attack as well. And that sort of becomes a real fun mechanic in itself. It is beautiful to look at. Like, this game is crazy good looking. It gives me Kena Bridge of Spirits vibes when it comes to its looks.
Call.
It's got that really nice sort of shininess to it, like Pixar-y type look to it throughout. So it's just real fun to be in this world. And every sort of location I've been to has been really nice to look at and fun to explore. They've got little shiny things on the ground that you go get. You've got unlockable stuff for your weapons as well. So you unlock these shards that you can attach and reattach to different parts of your weapons, so you can give them extra damage or extra force or whatever you want. So it's got all these extra mechanics that keep opening up in the game. I just didn't expect it to be there from the start of the game. I'm like, this is a cute little fun game that I might play for a little bit, but I am all in. It's got its own card game like Gwent in it as well. So you defeat these enemies, and then every now and again you'll defeat an enemy and unlock a card. So then you've got that in your deck, and you can go play card games with guys within the level. So I know that probably speaks to Bully and you potentially.
Well, can I just point out that they have lifted that card game directly from the Skylanders franchise? That is beat for beat exactly how the Skylanders card game goes.
They probably have, but it's one of those things. Like, it didn't need to be in a game like this, but it's there and it's functional and works, and just everything about this game. It's been a joy to play. Like, it's going back to a slightly simpler time in games, but I don't know. It's been a nice palate cleanser having something like this, where I didn't expect to think as much as I have in it, but B, to sort of go back to the old style of Zelda where you don't have a jump button. It sort of jumps automatically when you run, which is like an Ocarina of Time style thing. So it takes you back, and it's got that Wind Waker vibes where you get in your boat, you can sail to different islands and do different quests. You've got side quests. You've got, just like Final Fantasy, which you guys would have spoken about a couple of weeks ago, where you go on the hunts to find like your bosses, or whatever you want to call them, hunts. This has got a similar thing where you read a notice board. It'll give you a sort of a location. So I dare say Final Fantasy's ripped off Oceanhorn here, because this was out first. But you get notice of where they might be on the map, and you go there and you have this boss fight. And once you beat it, it ends up back in the jail in the main town. You end up with a reward for defeating that enemy. So you can fill up the whole jail with all these sort of big type boss battles that are not part of the main campaign. They're just sort of side content. You can go and venture and do it. So this game is just, it's lighting me up in a way that I didn't expect it to. Looking at the screenshots, I thought it might, because I do enjoy that art style, but it's just doing everything right. Like, it's adding mechanics as you go. It's different bits here and there that make you think way more than you ever thought you were going to. Like, the ability to go and do side quests that then unlock tangible things, like a new shield that I got recently for just doing some side content, was just, it's light me up. I love it. It's such a cool game.
And sorry, mate, is it a full price game or discount? Where are we sitting price wise?
No, was it $44.95, I think. So
$44.95. You've convinced me. I've just had to duck off screen to grab the controller and it is downloaded.
There we go. No, it is,
by the way. Damn you. I told you about the backlog.
I know, but this is worth being on the backlog, because I don't think it'll be on the backlog for long, because I'm just I want to go back into that world and just enjoy it. It feels like it's one of those cozy games where it's just nice to be in that world. You're not, too hamstrung by all the, achievements of, like, it seems like Remnant. It's stressful. It's fun, but it's stressful. This is just go in there, have a good time. Like, you never really find it too hard, but it's kind of enjoyable at the same time, and you make your own fun. I love it. It's definitely worth that $44.95. Like, I've paid full price for games that haven't given me the enjoyment this has given me for half the price.
Epic, man. I love it. Throw a score on the end of that review.
It's 8.59-ish at the moment for what it's given me. I can see arguments where you could sort of knock it down, because it is a much simpler style game. But even on the screen now, you see you got like characters like that. You use those guys. You can direct them to solve puzzles and stuff, where you put them on switches. Aim them at enemies and then tell them to attack them. So there's all this different stuff that is not in a Zelda game, although you can kind of use your enemies now in Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. But it's just doing all these things that I didn't expect it to do, and it's really enjoyable. So yeah, for me it's a 9. I could see other people giving it a 7, but it's really enjoyable.
Final question for me, and then over to you, Bully. This looks very kid friendly. Is this something I could maybe hook the boys up with?
Absolutely kid friendly. If they're playing Fortnite, they could easily play something like this. Like, there's nothing too violent about anything. Like, when you kill enemies, they sort of just disintegrate. There's nothing real violent. There's no blood or anything like that. But it's just an enjoyable little romp. Like, I could easily see my son playing something like this before he goes into something sort of a bit more like Tears of the Kingdom, because this is a bit more user friendly and a little bit more, here's the checkpoint. Oh, this is where you need to go. Sometimes though, they give you where you need to go, and trying to figure out how to get there can be quite difficult, because you've actually got to, maybe you don't have the thing you need to get there just yet. So a bit Metroidvania in that way, but it does sort of give you an idea of where you need to go, unlike Tears of the Kingdom. So no, it's definitely great one for the kids.
Fantastic. No points from me. Bully, any from you, mate?
Sorry, I tuned out while I was trying to enter my password into purchase. No.
All right, well, we'll take Bully's purchase as his 2 thumbs up of approval. So we're moving on. And you again, Unky, with Baldur's Gate 3. Tell us things.
Told you I've been playing lots of games. So Baldur's Gate 3, not something I thought I'd be playing right now, because I am, as everyone knows, not a PC gamer. But I do have this bad boy. which I got for my birthday, the old ROG Ally, which I don't think it's made an appearance yet on this show, but it's similar to a Steam Deck in the fact that you've got Steam on there, but you've got also Xbox Game Pass and GOG on there as well, so you can install all your games on that. So I thought, stuff it. You know what? This Baldur's Gate 3 is getting a lot of good reviews, and when I say a lot, it's pretty high on Metacritic. I think it's at 96 on Metacritic at the moment.
I'm seeing and hearing a lot of things online. I can't wait for it to be PS5 bound.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons as well. Like, I'm probably going to have to double dip in this one because as good as I can see this game is, I really want this thing on a 77-inch TV running at 60 frames per second on a PS5. So the good thing is, though, you sign up to your Valerian account when you log in, or you don't have to, but I have, because then that enables you to have your cross-save as well. So all you have to do on the PS5 is log into that Valerian account when it boots up, and you'll get your save file from where you're up to. So to be able to go from my handheld that I'll be hopefully playing this game while I'm in Japan, and then be able to come back and then keep going from where I'm up to. But
is it October, the PS5 release?
No, it's next. Is it October? I thought it's September.
I'm not sure.
It's the same day as Starfield. So 6th of September, I believe.
6th of September, I think. Yeah, got pushed back a couple of days.
Yeah, so if you pay I think it's the $120 for Deluxe Edition, you get 3 days early, which then puts it out the 3rd, which was its initial release date. I think they have gone out and record. There's a news article coming up. Won't spoil too much, but they pushed it back a little bit just to get that 60 frame per second mode in there. So it's good to know that this RPG is getting 60 frames per second, unlike Starfield. But from what I've played so far, this game is phenomenal. There might be people griping about the combat because it might not be their thing when it comes to, strategy combat when, you've just been playing something like Diablo that looks very similar. But being able to explore this world, the amount of character interactions and things that you can do within this world is just second to none. It is incredible the way conversations to go, the way you can... It rolls rolls the dice, but it literally rolls the dice because it's a D&D game. So you'll have conversation stuff where you need to get a certain score on your dice, you roll it. And if if you have that stuff in intelligence or whatever, then you might bump up that score on your dice and you might get a win or you might get a lose, and then something will play out completely differently. So
do you think when it comes to PS5, you'll have to shake the controller to roll the dice?
Oh, that's not that wouldn't be bad, but
until you let go of the controller.
Yeah, true. But no, it's
or somebody walks into the room and you're going,
and they're coming from behind. Yeah, not ideal.
With your VR goggles on, no good at all.
That's it. Oh, no good at all. But I've been very impressed by this. It runs really well on the ROG. It's probably sitting between 40 to 60 frames per second on the performance mode, which can be a little bit choppy, but it is running full ultra specs on the whole game, so it does look very pretty. And with a game like this, it's not like your twitch reflexes are needed at all with this game. You're sort of roaming around quite slowly with your party, and then when you're into combat, it's sort of it's not really dynamic at all. It's sort of turn-based in the fact that you're picking your character and you're picking what you're going to do, whether you're going to move or you're going to shoot, bow and arrow, you're going to get up close and personal, then you're waiting for your enemy to take their turn as well. So it is very strategic, and there's a lot of stuff that can happen on that battlefield. Like you can shoot barrels which will explode and take out multiple enemies, or you can get the high ground and get sort of, different spells and stuff down if you've got spellcasters in your group. But I've been very, very impressed with what this game's doing. I've only really just scratched the surface. I'm probably only 2.5 hours in, and just the amount of stuff I've already done, like recruited 2 people into my group, and potentially could have even just missed them if I hadn't done the stuff that I did, and just the amount of stuff this game's got. The character creator essentially is the first boss of the game, because the amount of stuff just to get through that thing, like I've actually just clicked just to get into the game, because I could have spent hours in there. The amount of different things and subclasses and everything you can have, and
how's Nathan Drake looking?
I was going to say, then is the trying to make him look like Nathan Drake, and without sort of working with a sort of touch screen plus pad on the little screen that I've got here, probably not as ideal as setting up a character on a PS5. So I may start the game from scratch just to get my Nathan Drake correct. I got him not looking too bad, but then I didn't really realize, because of the small screen, that he had all these piercings throughout his eyebrows and nose and ears. And then when the game started, the first cutscene, I'm like, oh dear God, my poor Drake. he's covered in piercings. But I've left him like that. He's now my character. And I think down the track, if it's anything like Divinity Original Sin, which is Valerian's other big game, that's their most recent game apart from this, that you can change your appearance quite easily. So I'm assuming that's going to happen in Baldur's Gate as well. But this has actually got me back to playing Original Sin, Divinity Original Sin 2 on the Xbox, and taking out where my save file was, just because that game was really cool back in the day. But I really want to get back into Baldur's Gate, but I need that on that 77-inch PlayStation. So, I might have to pre-order to get that 3 days early before Starfield.
You've done well tonight, Unky. I've got to go out tomorrow and buy Remnant 2. Bully's just bought Oceanhorn 2, and now I'm a day one purchaser of Baldur's Gate 3. Jeez, you're in the wrong profession.
Oh, it's almost like I used to work in a game store.
Bully, anything from your side on the old Baldur's Gate 3, mate?
No, I'm the same. I can't wait, but I just I was talking to Unky before the show. I hadn't played a PC game in a long time, and I haven't. Although my wife has been relatively generous this year in some of the purchases, she hasn't allowed me to spend another $1,000 on a handheld PC. So I will wait. The only problem is that it's and admittedly they're on different consoles, but it's releasing the same day as Starfield. So for me, I think Starfield will probably take precedence over it. And it might be one of those things that it gets put on the back burner and you get into it when you've got a bit more time, because I'd imagine the time sink into Starfield is going to be pretty big. And then by that stage, you're then looking at, flowing into some of the bigger game releases in the year in September, and then, the bigger ones in October as well, as you start to hit towards Spider-Man and those types of ones. So I'm really keen for it. I just don't know when and how I'm going to fit it in.
I reckon you could get at least 3 weeks into Baldur's Gate 3 before they patch Starfield up to a point where you actually want to be playing it.
It will be good to go day one. Mark one.
That's what I reckon. And then, Bully, I have to tell you, if you thought the cutscenes in Final Fantasy 16 were good, wait till you see Baldur's Gate. These things are ridiculous.
Man, I can't wait.
I love it. All right, then let's move on to Game 6. We're just coming back to the AFL Let's Play. You can see on the screen there of Bully. Fantastic game. Is that right? Fantastic game. There was no issues with it. They didn't need any patches or anything, did they, Unky?
Well, I think we called it AFL when we first reviewed it for a very good reason. And short, to cut this pretty short, it's no longer shit. It's actually quite good now. You really have to think about the way you play. I think the flow of the AFL game actually works now, like congestion and all that. You got your slick handballs are not, firing behind you. You're not doing a stab pass kick that's going behind you 50 meters anymore. I found it really, really good and competitive. I had to, a few weeks back, Geelong beat Essendon, so I had to go on there and rectify that. So we had Essendon v Geelong, and we had to get Essendon v Geelong going, and I managed to win that game with a comeback in the last quarter. And before that, playing on that same difficulty, you just absolutely belt them. So I actually had to think about what I was doing, where I was passing, whether I was hitting mark at the right time. So I think they've got that balance finely tuned now. I think it's finally at a state now where I can actually recommend this game for anyone that likes AFL. So I'm not sure if Bully's picked it up recently, but that was definitely my takeaway from the most recent patch.
Yeah, so I don't think I've played it in probably 3 or 4 weeks, and the last couple of times I did jump into it was the online game. So I thought, along the same sort of lines as you, Unky, is that it was probably a little bit too easy from the get-go. So I jumped into the online and see how you go against another actual person playing it. And there's some dubious stuff going on online. So there's... the umpiring still isn't squared away. Like I was playing one game where I tackled the opposition to the ground. Like he's tried to run. So what you would call holding the ball in normal circumstances. He's tried to run. He's got caught. I'm sitting there going, okay, well that must be holding the ball. So I stop holding the tackle or pushing the tackle button. All of a sudden the player just gets up, runs away, and kicks a goal, as in the player I've just tackled. So they don't pay the free kick. So there was that, and there's this little move which I haven't quite worked out how to do, but it's almost like a shimmy or a shake of a tackle. And if you do it at the right time as you're running towards the opposition, if they shimmy, they basically sidestep around you, and because the reaction time of your player on the screen doesn't matter how quick you are in it, you just it's not like a massive turning circle, but it takes a moment for the player to sort of readjust their position. And you find if you get someone that's good at using that particular move, that they can move the ball from one end of the ground to the other and you can't lay a hand on them. And it just goes on and on and on. And there was one game in particular that I played online and probably got, to half time and 10 goals to nothing. And I just couldn't lay my hands on the thing. It just got ridiculous. So I sort of put it down, as I said, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, hoping that there'd be some more work put into it, some more patches, and if you reckon the single player is back up and running okay, I might jump into it and have another look and see where that's at now.
Just quickly, Billy, how was the online community? Is there many people playing? Did you have to wait long for a game, or?
So about a month ago. So I don't know whether it's dropped off or not in that time, but I don't think I waited more than 30 to 40 seconds to get paired up with someone.
Reasonable.
And the other thing I think which might help, given the launch, whether it's going to help or not, I guess time will tell. But I think the Xbox release is due out in the next 3 to 4 weeks. I don't have the exact date in front of me, but that's due out in the next 3 or 4 weeks. So that might give it a bit of a bump as well with the online mode. But that depends, I suppose, on how many players pick or how many people pick it up, given the poor reviews it was getting at release, even though they have gone away and done a bit of work on it.
Any chance of Game Pass, do we think?
I wouldn't have thought so to start with. I reckon I would suggest that they would wait a month or two to see what the sales on the Xbox are, and I wouldn't be surprised if either at the end of this year or in time for the start of next year's season it hits Game Pass, and then because you would think by that stage they probably would have made the money in sales that they would have got out of it, and this would just be a bit of a kick in the bank for them to keep on with their other stuff, because it's not a massive budget game by any stretch of the imagination. And if they want to release another one at some point down the track, they need the funds. So I can see that being something in sort of 6 months' time.
Yeah, right. Unky, just looking back at your experience, would you expect sales of this to spike around the grand final, or?
Yeah, I think it will.
Probably not in Game Pass until after then, you'd think.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, it sucks that the Xbox copy is not out now, and it's we're nearing the end of the season already, so it sucks that they haven't got it out yet. But I can see if they don't get this out before grand final, they'll miss out a lot of sales, I think.
Last question for me. I can't remember the name of it, but there was a mode that they didn't put in at launch that they were promising to put in later. Has that reared its head yet?
It hasn't. No, I can't remember what the mode was called. It was like Legends mode or something. We can go and play
mode, I think it was.
Yeah, there was something where you could play like all the classic players and stuff there. No, they're not in it yet. So
very good. In that case, let's move on to Game 7 this week, and it is Street Fighter 6. Now, if you didn't think I knew how to play Broforce, check out my fighting here. Oh, no, I've hit and bully again. Unky, your thoughts on Street Fighter 6?
My thoughts on Street Fighter 6. I love this game. As I said, going back a few months, it was me flicking between this and Diablo, and I actually probably played this more than I played Diablo back then. I didn't expect to. I'm not really the fighting game guy. I've fell off them. I used to play Street Fighter back in the day and Mortal Kombat back when I was growing up on computer, the first iterations of those games. But there was something about the art style on this one that sort of did it for me. There was something about the adventure mode that really got me into it, being able to create a character however I like, and like Nathan Drake, and then sort of be able to go through this open world, which it's not the emptiest open world, but being able to walk up to anyone and just sort of challenge them to fights, and then use your abilities you unlock in that game to sort of explore that area more. So getting like Chun-Li's helicopter kick and using that to sort of fly across gaps in the world and stuff to find hidden chests and stuff, and going around and fighting and unlocking different masters. So like you find Chun-Li or you find Blanca and all that across the world, and you end up recruiting them as like your masters, and then you can unlock their abilities, which then you can mix and match your own character with whatever abilities of any of those masters you like and their style. And I just thought that's a really genius way of making it, user-friendly to anyone coming along that may not like a certain style, but may like one move of, one character and another move of another, and just be able to put into your own character. And I've really found the fun of that. I reckon I've put in maybe 25 to 30 hours of the campaign alone in this game, which I just really loved, and sort of worked my way up. And I'm now sort of fighting the championship. I think I'm towards the end of the campaign, but the fact they just added Ninja Turtles to this, which it's got egregious pricing, but all I needed was my boy Leo to get. So I think it's 750 of the little sort of Street Fighter bucks, whatever you want to call them. I think it equates to about $11.95 dollars. So I think if you're going to buy all of them, I think there was an article. I'm not sure if it's in our rundown today, but I saw an article this week. It is?
Mm-hmm. It sounds like it is now. Working.
It's expensive. So that's quite egregious. I'm usually the one. You can't see behind me right now, but I've got that many sets of Ninja Turtles right now. I hazard a guess how many I've got, but even in the last week, I've gone out and bought all the new pop vinyls of all 4 Turtles. I've got the new action figure versions, like the art versions of the new Turtles from the new Mutant Mayhem movie. I've went out and got all 4 of those Turtles. So I like getting all 4 of them. But for this game, I ain't spending that much on something digital where I know I'm only sort of probably really only going to play as my main man Leonardo, but you're not even really playing as him. You're playing as a costume version of him, and you only really can use it in that adventure mode. But it's a really good, like, you'd swear you're playing as Ninja Turtle, but you still keep all your same moves, and there's no story content in relation to that. But no, I love this game. I think the art style's great. I think the fighting's great. The characters are great. I've had so much fun with this game that I did not expect to.
Look at the cosmetics. What do you think of this one? Billy, you like this outfit I've got on here on screen?
I sort of looked sideways at it and I thought, oh yeah, Blanca. And then I've gone, what in the heck is this?
And then the funny thing about this outfit is it's a very good out in terms of the stuff.
So powerful.
It gives you, but then you can, if you don't like the way it looks, you can transmog your stuff. So you can keep Blanca its abilities, but you can also transmog to anything else you want to watch. So I do actually really appreciate Street Fighter's transmog system.
From my side, man, I'm really enjoying it. I'm terrible at fighting games, very much a button masher, but it is a fantastic use of the fight stick. I love breaking out the fight stick and playing some Street Fighter. They've got the modifier button. I think it's RB. You can hold down and then key around. So even though the arcade stick's only got the one stick, you can still rotate the camera around in the 3D world to navigate and everything. It's fantastic. I don't think the money pickup's really worth it, are they, Unky? 14 or 12 bucks or something on the ground?
Yeah, well, they add up once you get all the money eventually. Like, I find myself exploring all the time, picking up all the money, because you do eventually want to find things you want to buy in the store. So I spend probably too much time going around the world picking up bits of money here and there and stuff. But I'm all for that kind of stuff. And you mentioned the controls and button mashing. They actually have different control modes in this game, which I think is really good. They do have I want to call it like a Smash Brothers kind of style control scheme where it makes it much easier to sort of do all the moves and stuff. And for players that are going to play high end, they're going to play the way they've always played with the old style controls. But for someone like me or Troy that doesn't want to get into the weeds of it and just have fun playing the game, these control schemes are set up are really good. So you can do all the flashy moves without too much effort as well. And you might be competitive against some people going online, but you're not going to beat those high end guys anyway. But that's not why I was here to play this game anyway. I just want to get in there and have a bit of fun mashing those buttons. But no, a lot of fun.
How good are these little mini games that they've got through as well, Unky?
Oh, I love them. Like, that's the thing. The story campaign is really, really fun. It's a really good mode. Like, I could see them going even further with this in the future. And there's sort of different worlds you go to every now and again, change up the color palette, and there's different, story arcs and side missions you get given by those characters that have all these weird, reasons for doing things. I found so much fun. It's kind of Yakuza-like. Is probably the best way to put it. This weird, wacky side quests. It's just very Yakuza-y going around, and especially just be able to sort of get your brawl on whenever you want. Just walk up to, a level 2. Female, that looks like a little weedy nerd, and you're this bulked up dude that's like a level 20, and you pretty much destroy her in 2 hits. But she, she'll come up and she'll give you a high five and go, "Let's do this," and then you kick her ass. But no, it's wacky, it's fun, it's such a good time.
Yeah, I paid full price for this, but I think it was worth every penny. As far as, modern fighting games go and using that fight stick, it's exactly what I wanted. I absolutely loved it. Bully, I take it you've still no interest in a 3D open world fighting game?
No, none whatsoever.
Well, in that case, dare I suggest we kick in a newsroom door?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. It's time for the news. Who has the right to remain newsworthy this week, Unky?
Well, first up, I alluded to it before, it costs, from Video Games Chronicle, it costs $100 to unlock all of the Street Fighter 6's TMNT content. So as I said, it's quite pricey. Individual outfits costing up to $15 each, which is pricey if you want all 4 turtles, which, as I said, I normally would, but I've forked out just for Leonardo. I am more than happy with that. But as I said, each costing 750 fighter coins, which is the game's premium currency. If they just want the coloured turtle mask for their avatar, they cost 250 fighter coins each. So you've got sticker sets in there priced at 100 fighter coins, taunts at 250. I think there's one where they pull out pizza and start eating it, which is kind of cool. But I'm not really a taunt man in video games. So I'm not going to spend money on that. In all, that cost TMNT content is 5,300 fighter coins. So they can be earned in-game, but I think it's going to take you way too long to do that, which is why most people are just going to spend the cash, which is, I guess, what they want with a franchise like Ninja Turtles, where, you know what, I'm a sucker for it. It's my favorite thing to collect, but I don't know why you wouldn't release this slightly after the... Actually, no, it's probably because the movie actually has launched overseas in America, so this makes perfect sense, actually. In Australia, we still have to wait till next month for the movie.
It does indeed. Sorry, mate, I was slightly distracted. You may have already said it. Are you committing to any purchases here, or are you a hard pass on this?
No, just got the Leonardo. So I've purchased just the full Leonardo skin, which now I can run around the world as my builder character as Leonardo, and I don't think I'll ever take this suit off ever again. In that
fair call. Whale alert, not quite a whale.
Well, the only thing is, you talk about whales, is like it's just character skin, so it's not actual new fighters with a new moveset and all the rest of it. Like you could almost mount an argument that if it was $15 per character, that was a specifically designed character with its own moveset and all the rest of it. I think you could almost make an argument for it, but for the fact that it's just a skin for a character that you've already got anyway, and like you said, Unky, for fans of it, they might throw it on there, but for the simple sake of a skin, I think that's borderline outrageous, to be honest.
Yeah, it's pretty expensive, especially when Injustice 2 added the Ninja Turtles as a proper story DLC, and you got all the characters and all that kind of stuff. So they did it properly. So that's something you're probably going to fork over money for. But no, this as you said, it's just an outfit you're essentially getting. Yes, you do look like a Ninja Turtle, but they're not voiced. There's no story content in relation to it. I could see maybe if they'd added something where it was like you go into the sewers and there's a kind of a Ninja Turtle story to go along with it where you end up fighting Shredder. I think that could be something really cool they could add to this, especially with this collaboration already. But they haven't gone that way, and you were probably right. It's probably too expensive.
More or less offensive than paying for a port of a PS3 game onto a PS4 today?
Wait for it.
Red Dead Redemption, I'm looking at you.
Wait for it.
Wait.
All right, then. Story 2, is it?
Story 2. I'll take Story 2 as well, given the fact that I did allude to it before. It's Baldur's Gate 3 being delayed only by a few days. So I think 3-day delay, or let's say a week. Delayed a week on PS5. Runs at 60 frames per second. So they've gone out and said that... given the fact that they want to get this game running 60 frames per second, probably a bit of a dig at Starfield, but it is launching now on the same day, unless you want to pay the deluxe edition, which will give you 72 hours early access. So not 100% sure how that works if you delay the game to get that 60 frame per second in, but then you pay the extra to get the game early. Does the early version of that game still support that 60 frames per second? I don't know. That being said, it's not the kind of game where frames per second is really going to hurt it too much. As well, as I alluded to before, like playing on, a handheld, get anywhere between that 40 and 60, and it doesn't really matter. It's not twitch reflexes. So, if you're playing at 30 frames per second with a, solid frame rate in that time, especially as we've been accustomed to playing 30 frames per second games this year, or with next-gen consoles as it is, I don't see it being an issue for those 3 days if you do want to just pick it up early. And, if you don't like it, then just don't pay the extra money and wait that extra week, and then you got 60 frames per second.
Fair enough. No other points from me. Bully, did you want to touch this one?
No, I think we've touched on it more than enough. Speaking
of stuff we don't want to touch, what's going on in Story 3?
Well, Exoprimal. So the game's directors come out and said that they could get some Dino Crisis content if there is enough demand. I think is the two people still playing it enough of a demand? Let's be honest. When they announced this and they showed the trailer for it, and they had the dinosaurs start flowing out, I think every single person that was watching it that has a history in video games thought this is Dino Crisis coming back. All got excited, fantastic, and then the trailer continued to play out, and you're going, "Hang on a minute, what's this?" And then all of a sudden, it's the same developers, but it's Exoprimal. So here's something for you. You've been told. For near on 20 years what players want, and they want a Dino Crisis game. They don't want rubbish thrown into a rubbish game that I think after... I haven't looked at the stats on who's playing it, but if anyone still is, you're mad. It's crap. It's rubbish. Move on.
And I think if you read the fine print down there, it actually says a Dino Crisis skin for $100 onto the character that already exists in the game.
Now, put the Ninja Turtles in the Exoprimal. Maybe start to ask the question.
Let's pick up the pace a little, shall we, and move on to the next story, Game 4. No, it's not a game at all. It's News Story 4.
Go take it away.
Go, you jump.
Oh, fine, I'll do it. I haven't been here for 10 weeks, might as well. August PlayStation Plus game catalog and classic titles have been announced with some good ones in there. We've got extra and premium subscribers will be able to access them next week. I'll go through the list of games here. So, premium game catalog, we are getting Sea of Stars, which I believe is a new one. Is not out just yet. Thank you, Bully. Moving Out 2. Moving Out 1 was a great game.
Moving Out 2 is also awesome. I love it.
There you go. Destiny 2, The Witch Queen, one of the better expansions for that game, also coming to the service. We have Lost Judgment, which I did jump back into not that long ago before the string of big releases. I got back into that one, the sequel to Judgment. Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed is hitting PS4 and PS5. 2 Point Hospital, Jumbo Edition.
Wait, 2 thumbs up for Destroy All Humans 2. Get hold of that one.
Great game. Play that with a little fella as well.
Yes.
Source of Madness, Curse to Golf, Dreams is on PS4, but also on PS5. Apparently, they've released a new single-player game within that game as well. So if you want to see Media Molecule's most recent single-player game.
Yeah, it's free in PlayStation Plus this month. So I went hands-on. I played their little train car thing, and I got to take a hard pass, fellas. Don't even waste your time on the download.
Well, I'll say I did the same thing, but I went to the top-rated content and started playing that, and I thought, what in the heck is going on here? No wonder they're giving it away. They should have given it away to start with. Someone might have actually spent some time on it.
So you don't think it was a well-spent decade for one of the best PS3 developers out there?
Oh, they've Little Big Planet 1 and 2, and, they're flying, and then, I don't know what they were doing for 10 years. Certainly wasn't making anything decent.
They were dreaming.
Then we got one that my little fella would have liked back in the day, but he's definitely far removed from this now. PJ Masks, Heroes of the Night.
Oh, that sounds like a very easy platinum.
Oh, I was going to say Bully's going to be all over that one.
Wait, let me ask, Unky, did you grab your Stranded Deep Platinum, the free one that you just
I haven't done that. I've been working on the Remnant 2 one though, so an actual gaming one that I actually have to work for. So maybe I will do that. I'm probably due for a nice easy one though. Was it Lawn Mowing Simulator that was down here last year? I think was
the one that my boys
Hotel Transylvania, Scary Tale Adventures.
Ooh, another easy plat.
My boys are red hot on that, fellas. I don't know if your boys are fans of the old Hotel Transylvania, but sign me up.
Little fella, I think he's watched a couple of them back in the day. He didn't mind them, but he's into the sort of more scarier stuff now, which is strange to say considering he's only 8. But then we got Lawn Mowing Simulator, which was, I think, that game of the year last year, didn't it?
I think it just about did, and we can confirm it works with the steering wheel.
It definitely does. What a game. Spellforce 3 Reforced and Midnight Fight Express, which we were pretty glowing about. I know Troy really enjoyed that one. So that's the PS4 version. PlayStation Plus Premium Classics, we're getting Medieval Resurrection, Ape Escape on the Loose, and Pursuit Force Extreme Justice, which were all PSP games. And I might be checking out Ape Escape. I like me some Ape Escape.
Bully, let me check out your weeby knowledge here, man. What was the Japanese title for Pursuit Force Extreme Justice when it came out? Do you recall?
Oh, I've got no idea.
Oh, well, we'll let you search for that while we go on to story 5, Unky.
Story number 5. I was going to hand this over to Bully, but you've just given him some homework, so I might as well take this one as well. Take-Two boss says, Switch 2 not being backwards compatible would break contract with the players. We don't get to make those decisions, apparently.
Quick, somebody call Jim crying. There's a message in here about the PSVR 2. I'm sure of it somewhere.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. He tells me you need to give customers what they want and optimize their experience, and you can't not deliver a feature you're able to deliver. So as to maximize sales, there's something wrong with that sentence. I know it was the way I was reading it, but it just didn't seem to flow nicely. But no, I think the next Switch will need to be backwards compatible, especially with all the games that's currently on it. Whether that's a different slot that has 2 slots in it, maybe. I don't know whether you got one for the next gen cartridges and then one for the old gen cartridges, or it's one and the same. But we did get rumors, I think it was last week, that the next Switch is slated for 2024. When that remains to be seen, I don't know, but it needs to come sooner rather than later, so Troy can finally play Tears of the Kingdom. It's still probably the best game of the year, but I think the fact that we're getting back to compatibility, I think it speaks, wonders to them, listen to the consumers, and we need to get it. a done deal. It has to happen. The amount of games on the Switch at the moment is ridiculous. And I've just been playing Pikmin 4, which I haven't even spoken about. Another game I've been getting into. I've never played Pikmin before, but playing Pikmin 4 and absolutely loving it. It's one of those comfort games. I can't believe I've never got into Pikmin before. It's mainly because I don't really like strategy games, but I think it's a really nice, easy way to do that. And being able to play that on my brand new Switch 2 next year is going to be great.
All right, then, Unky, riddle me this. How are they going to resell Tears of the Kingdom when the Switch 2 release, if backwards compatibility is a thing?
DLC.
Yeah, they probably will add DLC to it and say get the deluxe Switch 2 version with all DLC included. Not that they've announced any DLC for it, but I'd be strange to think if they don't do that. I know they did just trademark a whole bunch of stuff from Tears of the Kingdom as well. That was news that also hit, I think it was today, where they've trademarked certain things you can do in that game. Like you can't move objects when Link's standing on them. They've now trademarked that. When the map shows you where you are when you load the screen, and then when it pops up to show where you're about to be transported to, they've trademarked that as well. So weird Nintendo decisions that they seem to do and come up with so people can't put them in their games unless they pay them exorbitant amount of money, I imagine. But I reckon we get two versions of that. They're going to probably run at 60 frames per second, and that with the new version, and you're stuck probably 30 frames per second with the old version, even if you are playing on a newer console. So, or they up the hard drive space and it's just all digital. I don't know.
Final question from me, then we can move on. Just quickly, which was the last Nintendo home console that supported backwards compatibility?
The Wii U.
Nailed it.
Correct.
I love it. Good work. And how did that one sell?
Like hotcakes.
Excellent. I'm sure they'll be dying to go for that again.
Well, it's funny you say that, though, because their last three home consoles, off the top of my head, have all supported the previous gen. So Wii U supported Wii. The original Wii had support for GameCube, and the GameCube itself, although you had to get an attachment, did support the Game Boy at the time as well, because they had the Game Boy adapter.
Yeah, but their handhelds have traditionally been backwards compatible, haven't they? I feel like the Game Boy Color, and all those were,
and all the DS, and then the other iterations
DS,
come with the 3DS and all that had. So they were different cartridges, and fit in the same slot, but they'd manipulated it with the 3DS cartridges that they were slightly oversized at the top, so that they would fit both. But in any event, they have a habit of it, so I can't see why they wouldn't do it on. No. In whatever the next generation of the Switch is.
Fair call. And I'm backing next gen Switch 2 will have right stick drift, not left stick drift.
Just to balance it out.
Yeah. All right, then. Story number, 5, I think we're up to this evening.
Yeah, so Twisted Metal, Peacock it plays in the US, is their most binged comedy premiere to date. I don't know whether my understanding is Peacock's relatively new over in the States. It's only 12 or 18 months old, so I don't think it would have much in terms of new content that's released that would necessarily bode or stack up well against that. But their initial data was that 400 million views within the first couple of minutes of the weekend that it premiered, and obviously dropped the 10 episodes at once. And they have also said that in general, people are watching 3 episodes in a row, so that's their binge length, is the 3 episodes. But some people have actually gone through and watched all 10 in a row. So I think we spoke to it briefly last week, Troy, and keen to get Unky's thoughts on it. But I quite enjoyed the show. I'm up to episode 4, I think. And again, it was just really out of step with the critical reception as well. As it sits at the moment, 68. On a critic score, but Metacritic, on the critical score is 68 with the audience score of 94%, I should say. So the general audience really loving it, and the critics, not so much. So again, just shows they're sort of out of lockstep with what people actually want to either play or view or whatever it is. But the show itself, I'm really enjoying it. I don't know what your thoughts are, Unky.
Yeah, I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I do. I mean, from the initial trailer they showed, which was just I don't know if you saw the trailer they showed. It was one of the game shows, I think. I think it might have even been Sony's game show, where they showed Sweet Tooth and Anthony Mackie sort of just fighting each other.
I'm pretty sure it was the Keighley's.
It could have been Keighley's one, yeah.
Games Fest.
That's right. That's the first time they showed it, and it just had Sweet Tooth and Anthony Mackie sort of back and forth and fighting, and it just looked really not great at all. But that was probably the worst slice of the show you probably could have shown, because from the opening moments when I started watching the show, I was actually finding it really enjoyable. I really liked the characters. I really liked the way they were telling a story about cars shooting at each other. I thought they created some heart in relation to the way the characters came into the story, and I think they set up really well. And I know you were grated a little bit, Troy, by Anthony Mackie's performance and his character. But I actually quite liked him as that, because you've seen him as this sort of more stoic character in the American, as in Captain America and all that kind of stuff. To see him playing sort of a slightly more comical role and playing up on that sort of comic style, I actually really enjoyed him in that role, and I thought he did it really well. I thought it lent itself really well to a TV show about Twisted Metal. Like, how else are you going to make a show? Like, when I first heard this was an idea, I'm like, out of any other video game franchise, why Twisted Metal? And I think they actually did it really well. Like, to go on a limb and say this is better than the Halo show, you shouldn't be saying that, but it is. It's more enjoyable to watch episode to episode than Halo. And I got to the end of the first episode, and I immediately wanted to watch the second episode. And then I immediately they give you a nice little hook each time, and the way the characters develop and the way the story goes and the violence, and I think it's got a good level of violence in it as well. Like, I think it's well shot. I think the sound's really good in it, in terms of the crunchiness of the way the cars all sound, and the effects of the bullets, and the way Sweet Tooth. I mean, it's a bit weird that he's been played. His body's been played by Samoa Joe, and he's voiced by Will Arnett, which is a bit weird. But
I love Will Arnett's voice, though.
It is good. And the whole, I'm not sure if you got to episode 2 where they do, I think it could be episode 3 where he does his own stage play. Sweet Tooth does his whole stage play. It's quite humorous the way the whole scene plays out. I'm not sure if you've got there, Troy, have you?
No, well, just because you said Halo, I bounced off Halo after 5 minutes. I've bounced off Twisted Metal after the end of episode 2. I got to the end of episode 2, so Sweet Tooth's introduced and he's talking about his stage show or what, if you come to see the show or whatever. And I don't know, it just didn't tickle me. I didn't think there was any need for me to go back and watch episode 3 or beyond. It just didn't do it for me.
No, that's all right. I do prefer the way they've done it, released it in just the whole season, because it'd be harder for me to go back, watch it each week. Whereas with the Halo, that's what I was doing. I was going back each week. This is nice being able to binge it, because they do really, at the end of each episode, do really sort of leave you wanting more. And it does sort of lend to the fact of, watching multiple episodes back to back. So when I've got some time, yes, I'm on leave, and I'm playing a lot of video games and trying to watch shows and watch movies and all that kind of stuff as well. But no, I could see myself easily finishing this off in one sitting.
I think if they had have given it maybe 6 more months breathing room from the end of The Last of Us set such a high watermark, and this just doesn't come anywhere near it for me. So I'm just like, yeah, I can do without it.
Yeah, but I think it needs to. I think they're both trying to do completely different things, and I think that's what is good about this. I think it's, The Last of Us is a completely different tone to what this is going for. It's going to be for a completely different audience, most likely. I don't think it's going to be for a Twisted Metal, people that love the game back in the day. Like, I never even really played Twisted Metal back in the day, so that's not why I'm watching this. I'm watching it just, because we love our video games. We love our video game media being turned into these things where it's, creating a bigger audience for the stuff that we love. And I like the fact that, even though you didn't like it, I am liking the fact that it is resonating with people that aren't necessarily gamers as well, but because they have got the star power in there, they've got Will Arnett as the voice, they've got Anthony Mackie there, that people have just seen him in all the Marvel stuff. It's got
don't forget Dharma and Greg.
Who?
Dharma and Greg, the sheriff.
Yeah, it's got him in it. It's got what's her face, Stephanie Beatrice from Brooklyn Nine-Nine as well. So she's in there. So there's a lot of recognizable faces
in there.
Party of Fives in there. So there's a lot of stuff to look at and go, okay, they've got the right people for this thing, and it's going to build a big audience for this show. And as Bully said before, like, it's obviously resonating with the viewers. So no, good on them. I gave it no chance out the door. I especially gave it no chance to myself, and I was pleasantly surprised.
I think I was sitting on low expectations, and then Bully last week was, it's in the 90s in Metacritic from the thing. So I got really excited, and I watched it. It wasn't for me. Bully, any thoughts from you, mate?
No, I'll continue to watch it. I think, as I said before, I'm up to episode 4. So it's not, for me, it's probably a little bit different to Unky. I don't get to the end of each episode and go, I have to watch the next one. But I sort of go, I'll watch 1 or 2. And then, when I've got a bit of spare time and don't feel like throwing a controller in my hand, I'll sit there and watch another episode. And I think I'll just continue with that over the next couple of weeks.
Fair enough. I love it. All right. Where are we? That's it for the news. Is it Unky? Have I missed one? I don't think I have.
No, that's it. We're just into Game Informer's games coming out this week.
Thank you very much, Game Informer, for your excellent work allowing us to do this segment. Unky, go for it, my friend. It's on screen.
So this week we have Gord for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. That's August 8. We have Tower of Fantasy, PlayStation 5, August 8, 2023. I think it's a free-to-play game from memory.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
We have 30XX for Switch and PC, August 9. Atlas Fallen, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. That was out today. Still haven't whaled that one up. Bully and I are sort of holding off a little bit. There's a lot of other stuff to play, and this is from Deck 13, the guys that brought us the Surge games and the original Lords of the Fallen, which I loved all those games. But looking at this one, I'm like, there's a lot of games similar to it. It looks very Forspoken. It's getting slightly better reviews than Forspoken. You do have a wristing that talks to you, but apparently it's not quite as obnoxious as the one that talks to you in Forspoken. So it'll be probably wait for a sale for me for that one. But yeah, it's looking like it's getting mostly 7s across the board. No score yet from Game Informer. We have Stray coming to Xbox. It was a
Game of the Year nominee.
Yeah, don't know how. It's a good game. It's not Game of the Year worthy, but it's finally coming to the Xbox consoles today as well. So I'm not sure if that's a Game Pass one. Bully, you might be able to tell me. Probably not, given the fact that it was a PlayStation exclusive. I can't see it then going across and doing the double dip on Game Pass as well.
It was a PlayStation Plus release.
It was.
Yeah, day one release. Yeah.
So they're all for the bag of money. I could definitely see them lining up for a second one.
They are, so I'm not sure if it is or not, but I didn't see it on the store earlier today when I was on there, so maybe it's just a late drop to coincide with the rest of the world. Then we have Stray Gods, the role-playing musical, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Getting relatively good reviews. There's a few outlets out there that are giving it 9s out of 10s. Apparently, if it's for you, it's for you. If it's not, it's not. So I don't think this is for me somehow.
Bully, do you reckon you can play that one with a saxophone?
If you make me play an actual saxophone, you know what my my skill with rhythm-based games is. So probably not.
If you can play Elden Ring with a saxophone, you can play Stray Gods, the role-playing musical.
Was Sweet Tooth's stage show? Was that a musical or?
That was more of a play.
Very good.
Then we had House Flipper on PlayStation VR 2 and PlayStation VR out August 11.
Wow,
that is
I like it. Great list, but I think that's got to be a first, that it's a dual PSVR 1 and PSVR 2 release. I've never seen that before.
No, true, but speaking of good lists, Troy.
Good lists? That can only mean one thing. Everyone stand back and stop the standoff.
Who will fight?
Who will fight?
Who will fight? We just spoke about it. Twisted Metal's out now, and it doesn't suck, according to me and Bully. We ask, what game has the best vehicle combat? And no, as I said before, Destruction All Stars did not make the cut.
Well, I'm out then. I'm out.
Oh no, that was Bully's winner, everyone. And also, if I had a standoff for games that got deleted off your console the fastest, that one would win.
Well, you know what? Just without getting too sidetracked, the reason I had to delete it wasn't because I wasn't enjoying it. Was I got a bug in the game that didn't matter how many times I installed it or reinstalled it, I could not matchmake at a certain point. So you couldn't get into the game at all.
Crazy.
Otherwise, I would have. I actually didn't mind it. I would have put a bit more time into it. But
hey, Bully, you got your PlayStation there. Just install it now. Check back in next week. See if those servers are still live. I'm pretty sure they were supposed to be the ones doing a new Twisted Metal remake, but then when they brought this game out, they were like, Sony's like, pass. We saw what you did with Destruction All Stars. We're not giving you the Twisted Metal franchise. True story.
Well, I think it was originally supposed to be Twisted Metal, was my understanding.
Twisted Metal, isn't that Entrant 1?
That is Entrant 1. Twisted Metal, as I said before, I never played too much of this. They all recently hit the PlayStation Plus catalog. So PlayStation, I think the Twisted Metal Blacks, I think you got to spend money on, but the Twisted Metal Black Original and World Tour or something are free. I had a bit of fun driving around in these. Like, yes, it's old and dated, but this is where sort of vehicle combat first sort of got its start, where you had the big arena and you had guns attached to your thing and you had all the story stuff that was really dark back in the day. I remember being a kid going, Mum's not going to let me play this. Like, you look at this clown now, like my kid would go, oh my God, this is my best game ever. And, he's a freak. But back when I was 8 years old, there's not a chance in hell I'm even looking at this game without getting a slap behind the ears.
Well, you're a bit too young, Unky, because I think I was about 15 or 16 when this came out, but I really enjoyed. I did jump back into it last week or the week before just to see how it sort of held up. The first one, not so much. So I'm keen to jump into the second one and see how that goes. But certainly when it was released, I remember playing the split screen couch co-op and had immense amounts of fun with it. It was a fantastic game for its time and its day. It's almost 30 years old, so you've got to remember that if you're going to try and boot it up now. But I actually loved it, and it was a game that we really hadn't seen a game like this. Apart, like you had the battle mode in Mario Kart, but this just took it to another level with the weapons and the as you said, just the characters that they had involved. I reckon it's a fantastic game.
And it twigged me this week where I was playing it, and there's a bloke called Axel, and I realised it's because he's in between two wheels, and he's the axle for the wheels. I was like, genius, absolute genius.
that almost needs to go into what was it, bro shooter? I can't remember what it was called. No, Broforce.
Broforce.
It's right up there with Broforce names. Myself, I love Twisted Metal back in the day. I've got to ask you, Unky, because I haven't even thought to fire it up in the back compat catalogue. Had they added trophies?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I think it did. I think I have popped the trophy in it, yeah.
All right, now I know what I'm doing after the show, boys. Bully, any thoughts from you on the Twisted Metal?
No, loved it. I'm as I said just before, I've played number one when it dropped onto PlayStation Plus. It doesn't hold up great. I'm keen to see. I'm keen to have a look at 2 and see if that's a bit easier to play. It just certainly you struggle a bit. Although one thing I was reading about is because you can use the thumbsticks to steer your car. Originally, when it was released on the PlayStation, it was designed for the D-pad. So the advice I've got is if you're going to play it, use the D-pad to steer your car around as opposed to the sticks. It does make it a bit easier.
Pro tip. Thank you very much. I'll keep that in mind. Entrant 2 this week, Unky?
Another game I kind of had to shield from the parents' eyes when I played it for the first time. This something about the goriness is, I think this does it predate Grand Theft Auto? It possibly does in terms of when it came out, but I remember playing this game and just like rolling through just the blood and guts and stuff back in the day was just something I don't remember seeing in video games. And being able to race, I can't remember too much about the game. All I can remember was the carnage that I caused, and just being able to drive around the roads. And I think Australia, I'm not sure if it was the first Carmageddon, but I think we may have even had green blood in one of the versions of the games as well, but it didn't make it any less fun.
That sounds like a very Aussie thing to do.
It does.
Myself, I never went hands-on with Carmageddon, so no points from me. Bully, how about you, mate?
Well, it's funny because it's one of those things that everybody made the big song and dance about, you mowing down pedestrians and stuff like that. It's actually a car combat game. So the pedestrian part is a byproduct, I guess, of trying to throw a bit of I see how we go with this term, but a bit of humour or a bit of shock factor into it to get people interested in the game and looking at the game. But it's actually a pretty decent car combat game at its base level. And I was the same. I really enjoyed it back in the day. I think it was only a PC release in the 90s. In the 90s when it did. Yeah. Although I do have, and I think you're seeing the footage for it on screen there, I do have it in the physical PS4 collection, the re-release, which is Max Damage here. So another one in the backlog I haven't got to, but it
actually looks all right.
I was going to say it actually looks quite good. I might break it out and have a look.
Looks much better than the old one, that's for sure.
Yeah. Perfect. Now here's a game we've all collectively spent, I reckon, over 1,000 hours in. Entrant number 3.
Yeah, Bully alluded to it before. Mario Kart had the battle system, but I played just as much battle with my mates as I did with the actual racing in Mario Kart. I remember, getting the gimmick with the 3 balloons on your bum, and you sort of had to go chase everyone else's balloons and make sure you shot theirs and kept your balloons. It was a really cool mechanic. I really enjoyed the donut level, and you had like the ones with all the coloured blocks that you could get around corners and stuff like that. There was a lot of strategy going on with Mario Kart, the battling, and I really enjoyed it. It was just something different away from the racing, and it just found itself sucked into that 4-player split screen, and just so much fun.
Oh, yes. Absolutely love this one. Everyone knows how much I love Mario Kart, especially Mario Kart 8 or Mario Kart Infinite, as I like to call it. Just top franchise. Absolutely love it. Oh, and there's Link on the bike. I absolutely love that one. Bully, your thoughts?
Oh, well, my thoughts go back to the original SNES version and exactly what you said, Unky, the multiplayer, having the couch co-op. And I still remember having, the old birthday sleepovers, and that was the game of choice. You'd have 6 or 7 of your mates sleeping in the lounge room in front of what was then the only TV in the house, and you'd all crowd around, throwing the controls to each other with who won and who lost, and it was pretty much you dabble in the occasional race, but for the vast majority of it was just a battle mode that you just go back and forth until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning when you were all dead tired and mum or dad come out and give you a clip across the ears because you need to go to sleep.
My old man just walked into the room and pulled the power. He didn't say a word, just walked in, bang, walked back out again. All right, then. Entrant number 4?
Entrant number 4, Wreckfest. I only played this for the first time not that long ago. I think either it was cheap Game Pass or whatever, but I think it was Game Pass. But jumped in there and just another great racing game with really cool car. It's not even really combat because it's not like you twist them out where you got guns or anything. You're sort of, you're racing your Daisy Duke style cars around, dirt circuits and stuff. It looks really good. The sound effects are really good. And I think it got an update recently for 60 frame per second mode as well. But really good, meaty, chunky racing combat where you just you can feel that metal on metal as when you have those crashes and stuff, and really good destruction within those cars as well. So really realistic and really just, it's just chunky. That's the best way to describe it.
I love it. Now, I've just seen there in the trailer, is that in games? Can you actually drive around in a couch on this game? Or is that just for the trailer?
I think it's just a guy with the steering wheel, isn't it? He's sitting on his couch with his steering wheel playing it, I think.
I just saw it fly past there, right there. He looks like he's going around that loop-to-loop on a couch to my eye. But anyway, Wreckfest, I first went hands-on, I want to say it was right at the end of the PS4 generation this came out. And I remember firing it up and sitting on the load screen for about a good 90 seconds before it loaded, and I just bounced hard immediately. I am not waiting 90 seconds for one map. I know it came out on this gen console, so I assume they've picked it up, but I've never gone back to it. How about you, Bully?
No, I never played this one, but again, it looks quite fun and interesting. I might have to, if it's still on the PS Plus side of things, or if it was one of the monthly games, I normally get those even if I don't play them. I'll claim them, so I might have to go and see if it's in the catalogue there. But just in terms of the style of racing, I'm surprised you didn't go with the best in the original in terms of
Destruction Derby.
of the Destruction Derbies.
Yeah, I did have it in there, but I was like, Wreckfest is newer. Maybe people might not know what Destruction Derby is, but you're right. I remember back in the day, Destruction Derby. This is essentially that, but
better looking.
Essentially, yeah.
But see, you're killing me now because I told you at the start of the show about the backlog, and you've now got me 3 other games to download plus Oceanhorn that I've had an issue because my password's bugged up, and I'll have to work that out after the show. But you've now got my backlog's exploded by 5, and if we keep this list going, it's probably going to grow and grow and grow.
All right. Well, here's one I know you have played and finished. Then, Bully, entrant number 5 this evening, Unky?
Is a Batman Arkham Knight. So a lot of people didn't like this game for the Batmobile stuff. I actually thought the Batmobile stuff was quite fun and enjoyed it for what it was. I think it's the way you drive around the city, the way you can call that Batmobile in, and Batman does this big giant thing and lands in the car, and then it does the thing. It always does the cutscene where the wheel spins around, and then you're slamming through walls and debris going everywhere, and then you're having these sort of racing style things where you're sort of shooting missiles at cars to try and take out the enemies, and then you're going to go and interrogate them, or it's turning the whole car into a tank and having tank battles. I actually found it really fun and quite tactical, and just changed up the gameplay enough where you weren't. It was the Batman power fantasy where everyone always wanted to have the Batmobile, yet as soon as they put it in there, people didn't like it. I never got that. I thought they did it really well. I thought the gameplay mechanics they used were really well done, and it wasn't overused. I thought the design of the Batmobile was really well done. I just think the sound of this thing is absolutely insane, and just playing in the Batmobile, driving around this thing, getting into the combat was just so much fun.
I second your points, man. As soon as you flicked the car control over to the alternate style, I remember the default one was trash, but then you go into the menu and flick the Batmobile controls to the alternate style, and then they nailed it. So I loved it once I'd made that change in the settings menu. How about you, Billy?
Yeah, I'm the same as you guys. I didn't understand the hate for it at all when it came out, and I thought it was a good, just an expansion on the world, because obviously we went from Asylum to City that took it into a bigger open world, and then this one just expanded it even further. And the fact that they've dropped, rather than just sort of gliding or using your grapple hook to get around the city, they've given you something else in order to get around the city, and they've included in submissions. I thought it was just a good breakup from from what could have been, in my opinion, a probably tedious affair given the size of the city of trying to zip from one side to the other. They gave you an option to sort of speed it up a little bit. So, yeah, again, I don't understand the hate for it. And I thought it was a fantastic game. Even got all the Riddler trophies for it.
Whoa, top effort. Tip of the cap to you, sir. That is fantastic.
I couldn't get the
gamer over here. Look at him.
Well, I couldn't get I can't get the platinum
because
I can't get the platinum because I can't do the combos that are required in those challenges. But I could certainly find all those Riddler trophies.
Pull a me, mate. Invite Unky Dunky around and get him to pop the trophies you can't on your behalf. All right, then. Personal favourite of mine here. Entrance 6, Bully. Unky, sorry.
Road Rash. Troy, it'd be rude to take this one off you since you're saying personal favourite. Take it away.
I absolutely love this now. Someone's going to have to correct me because my memory's not that good. But was this a NES or was it a SNES release originally?
Sega Mega Drive.
Oh, well, I never owned a Sega Mega Drive, so I don't know what console I played this on first. But geez, did I pump hours into this. I loved it. My favourite move was the old chain.
Yes.
Go next to him, hit the chain out, and I always had to break out the the Mad Max line. Dundalini wants his hand back when you come off the bike. But fantastic. I love this, and I spent way more time knocking people off bikes than ever trying to finish the race well. I didn't care for position. I just wanted to cause maximum carnage. How about you, fellas?
I was probably the same. I just enjoy it. It was one of those early day games that you played, and it's just like it was that added thing of not just being a racing game, but being able to knock people off their bikes. And I can't remember what iteration I played because I know there's been quite a few iterations of this game and remakes and remasters and new versions of the game come out since. But they've also added on those mechanics. But just watching this simple gameplay of just the old school mechanic, just being able to sort of smack left and right and just take people out, it was just so much fun. It didn't matter how long you did it for; it just never got old.
I absolutely love it. Oh man, I pumped hours into this. How about you, Billy?
I think I played the original just as a blockbuster hire for a weekend or something like that. I was just having a look. It was Sega Genesis or Mega Drive, depending on what land you live in. But that was what it was released in back in '91. And as Unky said, there's been a few iterations over the journey, and they did release or try to release one in where are we? It was for I reckon it was PlayStation 4. Did they try and release another one for that? I'm not sure who made it, but it was, from my understanding, it was absolute trash of a game, the remake. But certainly, this style of game is just for me very very reminiscent of those days. It's the arcade style pick up and play was pretty heavy, especially for the Mega Drive or the Genesis was really their sort of core. They didn't go for a lot of the longer style platforming. They were, or Sega at the time was really pushing having an arcade experience in the home, which is essentially what you're getting with this sort of game.
And how's the ray tracing rearview mirror going on there? All the way back in the day. Look at this. There you go. Look at that.
Top end, what I love here, mate.
Spider-Man 2, eat your heart out.
I think it'll be about 2 more races. You see, the opponent's name is Axel, funnily enough.
Hey! Crossover.
Standoff entrant number 7.
Oh, Burnout Revenge. This is a similar kind of thing to this. Like, I remember when Burnout Revenge came out and you got Paradise and all that after it, but just the way you could bump cars and then the crashes, I think that was the first time I remember seeing crashes go slow motion.
Yes.
And show the absolute destruction of your cars and stuff. I just remember being so addicted to the races and this and just getting slight little nudges or pit maneuvers and, watching cars go flying and you go and flying past it, or just so much fun. I know they had their crash mode as well, where you just had to try and create as much carnage as possible, which was also fun. But from memory going back, this is one of the first times I looked up and go, oh, graphics are really good in games now. And the destruction we've got in cars compared to something like a Gran Turismo where you pretty much see next to nothing on your cars back in the day. Then this comes out and it's just like full on destruction. I just remember being awestruck by it when it first came out.
I reckon I pumped over 200 hours into this. This was a 360 release. Yeah, I'm not blanking on that, am I?
PS2, Xbox, and 360.
Yeah. Oh my God. I pounded so many hours into this on the 360. The soundtrack was awesome. Shout out to the soundtrack. But you're right, man. That bullet time and the slow down, the takedown, and then they'd fill up your boost gauge again, and then off you go to the races. Right. Oh my goodness, did I spend a lot of hours in that? How about you, Billy?
The whole Burnout series I really enjoyed. And Unky touched on it there. The racing was fantastic, but that crash mode, I think, the later games didn't have it, but that crash mode for me was outstanding.
I think, didn't that rear its head in, was it last year, Saints Row? I'm pretty sure it appears as a minigame in that latest Saints Row. Sorry, Billy.
Yeah, just nowhere near as good.
Didn't play that trash bag, but... yeah, loved it, and I was just having a look just to see when it was released, and it is. You've got another one into the list because it's the Xbox 360 version. You can do backwards compatible on the new versions of the Xbox. You're killing me.
No, now, is that already in your collection, or do you have to go make a purchase?
I was just trying to look it up there to me. Well, for anyone that hasn't seen it, G.E.A. It's an app I have on the iPhone that tracks all your games. I've got Burnout 3 Takedown and Burnout Paradise. I do not have Revenge. So not only are you going to go and make me play something else, you're going to make me spend money.
And that brings the backlog up to an even 200, doesn't it, Billy?
I'll keep going.
Speaking of keeping going, didn't somebody mention this just a moment ago accidentally?
Oh, they did. This for me is a contender. Mad Max. What a game, and it's built on that car combat and car mechanic throughout the game. Like, who would have thought a game basically set in a desert could be as compelling as this game is? And it's because of that car combat and just driving this car is fun. But when you're taking out the what do you call them? The groups of cars. I can't think of the word right now. Someone fill me in if I can. But when you're taking out these group of enemies and you're really battling and you've upgraded your car or you've got different models to your car and you've got the harpoon gun and you're trying different things or you're trying to use your gun to shoot their barrels in the back of their car, the combat of this game is just so much fun in the car. And they really banked on that with the setting and with Mad Max that, a lot of games when they're in the open world, that car stuff's probably the least of their fun stuff. They want to get out and, do the hand-to-hand combat, which this game does well, but it's all about that car combat for me.
Yes, big fan of the car combat. And I want to shout out, and I'm blanking on his name. I'm hoping you can help me, Unky. The bloke that you rescue and he ends up being your mechanic and does all the car upgrades. You keep going back to him. I can't remember that guy's name, but he's on the back of your car right there.
I feel like it starts with S.
Yeah, I can't remember, but I love that character specifically. He spoke to me on levels. Bully, did you go hands-on with the old Mad Max 2015, I want to say?
Certainly did. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was fantastic. Fantastic game. And unfortunately, released the same day as Metal Gear Solid 5.
Yes.
So it never got the...
what year was it, 2015?
2015, yeah. So it never actually got the recognition that I think it deserved. The open world was fantastic. It was, there was some criticism that it was a little bit barren and a little bit sparse, but that just for me added to the atmosphere of the game itself. And it wasn't like you were driving, 10, 15 minutes from one area to the next with nothing to look at. It was, you might spend a couple of minutes, and there was, the enemy characters that come up to you halfway through, and while you're going from one settlement to the next or one area to the next, you get into a car battle. So I thought it was fantastic. And Chum Bucket's your friend out the back.
Yeah, I had it as well. Chum Bucket, he was great character. But what a game! I've got to go back and finish this game at some point. Watching all the stuff Atlas Fallen, which we were talking about earlier in the desert and stuff, made me kind of want to just go back and play Mad Max, because just what a game! And just the sandstorms that roll in and the colors and the lightning storms and stuff. It's just such a cool game, and I think because it came out at the same time as Metal Gear Solid 5, I played pretty much that non-stop. And then by the time I was around to playing this, I think open world game fatigue had sort of kicked in for me a bit. So, but went back and played it for the start of this year, I think, and found myself really enjoying it, and just going back and just loving the combat, especially the car stuff. But I will definitely get back to this game, and I do want to finish it again.
Well, the only problem is you can't platinum it anymore because they shut the servers off.
I've got an Xbox anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Sorry, I missed that.
I said I've got it on Xbox, so it doesn't matter.
Oh no, I was just going to say for the trophies. I don't know. Well, yeah. I don't know if you'd be able to get all the achievements on the Xbox either. Which, for a single player game, I found rather annoying that you got to have a server active to get trophies.
Yeah, that'd be rubbish.
Yeah,
doesn't take away from its amazing car combat though.
No.
Excellent work. All right, entrant 9 this week. Now, this one I've never even heard of, so you're going to have to tell me this one from the beginning, Unky.
I remember I was working at EB Games at the time, and it wasn't on my radar either until they gave us manager copies of the game. And playing this game is essentially playing a normal racing game with actual real life cars, but then add Mario Kart because you're picking up pickups to shoot and do all that kind of stuff. So it's essentially Mario Kart with real cars. That's essentially what it is. And the combat and racing in this game and the graphics in this game as well for when it came out were just top notch. And I just remember absolutely loving this game, playing way more of it than I thought I was going to. I thought I was going to chuck it in, have a couple of races, and then but then I'm pretty sure I finished this game back in the day as well. I just found so much fun in the combat of the game and the pickups and just feeling like I was playing Mario Kart, but playing a souped up version of Mario Kart. It was so much fun and just so weird and wacky to see all these real life models of cars going around shooting missiles and getting speed tokens and all that kind of stuff. I had a great time with it.
Do you recall, mate, in the option settings, was there anywhere to disable motion blur or not in this title?
Oh, I don't know.
I think it says in the name there, Troy.
Joke, I'm sorry. Over to you, Bully.
That's good.
No, this isn't one that I played back in the day, to be honest. I think I reckon it was sort of that period, especially with the Xbox, that they were just pumping out the arcade races non-stop, and it was just probably lack of awareness that I'd sort of tuned out with a few of them and never jumped into it.
Might have been all Need for Speed for me by this stage, maybe.
And I think that's what I liked about it, is it was kind of Need for Speed, and it was pretty like Need for Speed, but then it had that extra element of like vehicle combat as well, which coming from a Mario Kart background and really enjoying that, I think they've really blended the two really well together. So strange that you guys haven't really sort of played this one. As I said, I probably wouldn't have played as well if I didn't get a free copy of it. But I loved it.
I never even heard of it until I saw it in the rundown for tonight, man. It's totally passed me by.
And thanks for finally picking one that isn't backwards compatible. Although having said that, I still have the Xbox 360 hooked up, and you're going to make me actually go into this and have a look again, see if I've got it. Yes, I do on the PS3. So yeah, I'll add that to the backlog.
Wait a minute, this might have been an Activision published one, mate. Just cool your jets for 3 weeks, and it might appear in a backwards compatibility.
Hey, true.
Criterion it was, which is
EA.
no longer existent studio. Oh, sorry, Bizarre Creations, not Criterion.
Bizarre Creations were Microsoft, though, back in the day, because they did Geometry Wars, I want to say, the launch arcade title.
Well, although it is, so Bizarre Creations were owned by Activision, so you're right, Troy. It may come back from its deathbed.
Don't go spending the cash on this one just yet, Bully. I reckon
it's already in the library, my friend.
He works fast, ladies and gentlemen. Make way for Bully. Unky, what's entrant number 10?
Bully's not going to want me back on the show next week. It cost him too much money. Entrant number 10, a bit of a different one. We've got Halo, though, but you cannot deny that Halo has amazing vehicle combat. It has ever since its iteration. It's had all the way through the games as a first-person shooter. There's no right to have vehicle combat this good. You've got tanks, you've got the Warthog, you've got the Ghost, you've got Banshees, you've got everything. It does so many different vehicles, and they are all so much fun. And not only are they fun in the campaign, shooting the grunts and the elites and all that kind of stuff, it's a lot of fun to sort of get in these vehicles, play co-op, and shoot other people in multiplayer as well. And it's done just as well. I think the balance of melee, with first-person shooter combat and vehicle combat in Halo is almost perfect for the sandbox.
Fair call. It does have a very unique controller style, the old Warthog. Does any other game use that same steering mechanism, or is that exclusive to the Warthog, the look and steer being on the different thumbsticks?
I think there's a few that do it now. I think it did come from Halo. There's a few that use it, but there's none that do it as well as Halo. There's none that do it as memorably as Halo. Like I'm not thinking of any other games, and I'm thinking of that control scheme. So
very good. I'm a big fan of the Warthog, and shout out to it in Halo Infinite? That was the most recent one.
Yeah,
I love the vehicle combat in that as well, with the big bloody, what was the tank, and get the guys on it and run into battle. That was awesome. Bully, your thoughts on the Warthog or Halo for vehicle combat, mate? Oh, mute, mate.
Taking the vehicle combat aside, I still think that was one of the best moments in video games, in that first level of Halo. If you're doing it in co-op, that you can jump into the Warthog and start cruising around at what the time was a fairly fantastic sort of open-ish, green, fantastic-looking area. But the multiplayer, that was another part I really enjoyed as well. The amount of hours that I sunk into that in the the first and second one, and then I dipped out of it. And I don't think I played 3, 4, and 5, but certainly I would have put thousands of hours into the multiplayer on the first two, and jumping on that, it was always a fight as to who was going to drive the thing, who was going to use the who was going to use the gun on the back, and I think that was more of a battle than what you were doing on screen was who got what.
First in, best dressed, we always play by. All right, fellas, that is the list of 10. Where is everyone sitting this evening?
Tough one. So we're looking at best vehicle combat. For me, I'm either leaning towards a Mad Max or potentially even a Halo there with the amount of options you've got for vehicle combat as well. So that's where my chips are lying at the moment.
It's Burnout Revenge for me every day of the week. How about you, Billy?
Oh, well, I was just going to go with the game that kicked off this whole list to start with and sit with Twisted Metal. I think that was, as I said, there had been some variations of car combat in the past, and as I said before, Mario Kart, but this just sort of upped it, especially coming out fairly new into the original PlayStation's lifestyle and what you didn't think was possible in a video gaming space, and just the tone and the characters that they'd put together is probably where I'd be sitting with that.
Well, that looks like a three-way split. So by chance, do we have an entrant in their YouTube chat, Billy, that can maybe nudge us home here?
No, we don't, because my screen has just pooped itself, and I've had to reload, and that's dropped the chat out. So I had
the same thing. There was an error in the chat earlier, and it's deleted all the chat. So
there you go. So the short answer is no, we do not.
So then we're going to have to break this down. So we're saying vehicle combat. So maybe it's a bit cheating to give something like a Halo, which is a bigger game that's got vehicles in it that you can play with. Maybe we break it down to games that are just vehicles that do combat. So Twisted Metal could be there because it's not racing, it's just cars battling cars. Mm-hmm. Carmageddon, similar. Burnout Revenge, similar. They are just cars v cars. So you've got to make the choice between Burnout and Twisted Metal. I reckon if you're going Burnout, Troy, and Bully's going Twisted Metal, it's up to me for the swing vote, I reckon, between those two. What do you reckon?
Well, I reckon you'd have to probably give it to Twisted Metal, being that it's, the TV show that we were talking about earlier, surely.
Hit TV show on Peacock, Troy. All right. I mean, yes, it started the standoff, and it's the reason we're doing the standoff. Bully's, he sold me on Twisted Metal. I'm going to go download Twisted Metal Black now because it's the most recent version. It's going to cost me $11.95, bit of a whale. But that's probably less than the amount of money Bully spent this episode, so not too bad.
Well, you could do that, or you could buy one more turtle skin in Street Fighter 6, mate.
Well,
you sold me, actually. I think I'm doing that. Raphael, here we come.
I'm sort of half hoping that the chat crashed because we're getting so many donations to help me out with the purchases that are required after this show.
Not likely, but proud to say, Twisted Metal, a winner is you for the best vehicle combat game from tonight's Standoff. Bully, that does bring us over to you for the fourth segment for what's happening in their YouTube chat. However, I fear that maybe we can't do it due to technical difficulties.
No, well, I think it crashed fairly early on, so apologies to anyone that was trying to jump into it and have a look, but hopefully jump in next week for the show, and anything that you wanted to comment on for this one, certainly we'll have a look at and throw into the show next week as we can, but it is completely empty. There's nothing but golden silence in there.
Crazy. If you're watching this after the fact, you could always leave your vote in the comment section. We'll certainly see that as well. But that will do us for, what are we, episode 77 of the Gaming Enforcement Agency. Unky Dunky, a big welcome back. You've nailed that second slot, mate. Congratulations.
It's been my pleasure, mate. I'm very, very happy to be back and playing video games.
Great to have you back. And Bully, as always, mate, a pleasure to be gaming enforcing with you, sir.
Thank you, and very happy to have Unky back. Less happy that he's taken my spot.
In my absence as well. Thank you, Ace, for doing that. You put on some good shows.
Great work. Yes, shout out to you, Ace. Thank you very much. That is us, gentlemen. We are off duty. Unky Dunky, my friend. What else can you do with Geek Aloud?
Like it, subscribe it. You'll never miss it.
Oh, that was luck. Hey, that's something.
donkey. Okie dokie.